To Pennsylvania Senator Bob Casey, Democrat. Senator, very good to have you back. I'm wondering how this battle back and forth on the state's senator and the counts and all of that is affecting or could affect what's going on in this Georgia runoff race, two runoff races. What do you think?
Well, Neil, I think the Georgia elections on the 5th of January, obviously, I think stand on their own. The result, the presidential race is going to be certified soon. As your correspondent indicated, the Pennsylvania results will be certified on the 23rd. But of course, there's a lot at stake in the Georgia races because if our side is able to win both, it'll be a 50-50 tie, and we would then have a majority because of the vice president. So that's a significant fight, and it's going to be weeks of battle. But I think our side has a really strong foundation now that Joe Biden was declared the winner in Georgia.
You know, we have not called that race in Georgia ourselves. Others have not, but you're quite right. I mean, he leads in all of these various counts. But having said that, Senator, I am curious about what Joe Biden wants. You two know each other obviously very well, working in the Senate together and all of that. I'm just curious as to what you make of what happens if you don't take the Senate, that you lose both of these seats, that is Democrats, or you split, which again wouldn't be good. You need to win them both. Some argue that Joe Biden actually prefers that right now because he doesn't want to cave to some of the progressives in your party, many of whom are demanding that, you get Bernie Sanders in there as Labor Secretary, Elizabeth Warren as Treasury Secretary, and he doesn't want to go that route. What do you think of that?
Well, Neil, I think that certainly Democratic senators and President-elect Biden want a Democratic Senate. I don't think there's any question about that. Now, he hasn't told me that, but that's I know him well enough to say that. But I think if it doesn't go in our direction, and if it is a continuation of the Republican majority, we're going to have to get a lot done. The two biggest crises in the lives of most people are what you've been covering this morning, the virus, this raging virus, which is hitting a record number of cases every day. Here in Pennsylvania, the cases are way up. We've set daily records as well. We got more than 9,200 people dead in our state, and it's raging everywhere, north and south, east and west. So that challenge is in front of us, and it's a challenge both parties must confront. And then the jobs crisis, the economic crisis. We got more than 500,000 people out of work in September, 518,000. So we need a job strategy as well, and I think that's true of both parties. So we're all going to have to work together on these two crises. I would not want to be a senator who's standing in the way of dealing with those two crises.
Let me ask you about that. You are a senator right now from Pennsylvania, a very influential one, and we heard from the president-elect's healthcare task force, Dr. Michael Osterholm, who raised the possibility of a 4 to 6 week lockdown. Joe Biden himself has not endorsed that, and nor has he rejected it. How do you feel about that? A 4 to 6 week lockdown mandated by the federal government?
Well, Neil, I don't think that's likely to happen, number one. Number two is the reason I can say that is because we know a lot more about the virus than we did before. Even though the case numbers are higher than they were in April in a lot of places, and it is raging, we know a lot more about how to deal with it. Look, if tens of millions of more Americans were wearing masks, that alone would turn this in the right direction. So I think the mask.
Do you think a mask mandate is in order, Senator? Do you think a mask mandate is in order? Even the governor of North Dakota is kicking that around. Go ahead.
Personally, I think that's going to be necessary in some places, but it shouldn't require a mandate. If you're a patriotic American and you care about your neighbor, the person next to you, and you care about your own health or the health of someone in your household, you should wear a mask. The good news is most people are wearing masks, and they understand how valuable that is to turning this in the right direction. But I think we know a lot more about how to control this virus, but we need a strategy on testing. There's still not nearly enough testing. We got to get faster results on testing. We need more personal protective equipment. All of this is playing out in large measure in nursing homes. Neil, you know that more than 91,000 people have died in nursing homes when you add up the residents who died and the workers. We got to turn that in the right direction. I think we can.